Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we are studying the Bhagavad Gita, the 13th chapter. And the 13th chapter, we are going to the 24th verse today. Am I right? The 24th verse? Right, correct. Just recall quickly that in the Bhagavad Gita 13th chapter, 6 questions were asked. The 13th chapter consists of the answers to those 6 questions. What are the 6 questions? The difference between kshetra and kshetragya. What is kshetra? What is kshetragya? What does that mean? Field and field knower. What is the difference between spirit and nature? Prakriti and Purusha. What is to be known and what is knowledge? So in Sanskrit, kshetra, kshetragya, field and field knower. Prakriti, Purusha, nature and spirit, or nature and consciousness. And then jnanam and jnayam. Jnanam, knowledge, jnayam, what is to be known. More or less the same. The 3 pairs, they're more or less the same thing. Field and field knower, nature and spirit, same thing. Field is now called nature. The field knower is now called Purusha, the self or consciousness or spirit. Jnanam is put in a slightly different way. Knowledge, what is to be known, or what does knowledge consist in? A lot of practices for knowledge were given. We remember 20 practices were given. And then jnayam, what is to be known? Well, God is to be known, or self is to be known, realized. Who am I? That is to be realized. What am I and what am I not? What am I? Kshetragya, the knower of the field. What am I not? Kshetra, the field. What am I? The Purusha, consciousness, the self, the spirit. What am I not? Prakriti, nature. To know this is what is called knowledge. And the knowable is what I am and what I am not. Now, practices. 2 verses on practices, 24 and 25. Please repeat after me. Dhyānenātmani paśhyanti, dhyānenātmani paśhyanti, kechid ātmānam ātmanā, kechid ātmānam ātmanā, anye sānkhyena yogena, anye sānkhyena yogena, karma-yogena chāpare, karma-yogena chāpare. Some see the self, in the self, by the self through meditation, others by the path of knowledge, some others by yoga, and still others by the path of action. So multiple spiritual disciplines have been mentioned. So what are the ways of realizing? First of all, the self-realization. And the word self occurs 3 times here. ātmānam, what is to be realized? The self. Where are you going to realize it? In the self, ātmani. How are you going to realize it? ātmanā, by the self. The goal is 3 times. ātmā, the word self, has been mentioned thrice. Where are you going to realize? In the self. What are you going to realize? The self. And by what? By the self. So in what senses are the thrice they are used? So you have to be very clear about how they are used. First, this realization has to take place in ourselves. Atmani, in ourselves. In Sanskrit, that's the 7th case ending, the locative, where, in ourselves. In this body-mind. Yeah. So we are being pointed. Where will God realization take place? Yes, Vedanta says all-pervasive divinity. It's everywhere. Within ourselves, open your eyes and see everywhere. It's everywhere. There's one divinity. That's all fine. God is in heaven and all's right with the world. Yes, God is in heaven. God is in the world too. God is within this body and mind. God is outside everywhere. All very good. But now the first teaching is look inwards. For self-realization, you have to look at the self first. The realization will it has to take place within ourselves first. Within ourselves means here our self, ātmani, precise meaning is in this body-mind. In what we think of ourselves as. I think of myself as this body-mind. So the realization will take place here. Not out there. Yes, it's true that Brahman is there out there, but your first realization, the first breakthrough has to take place within yourself. So the focus has to turn inwards. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, 2nd chapter, Brahmananda Valli, the chapter on the bliss of Brahman, Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. You realize the ultimate reality, your nature as a self, in the sacred space of the heart. Nihitam Guhayam, in the sacred space of the heart, which is a fancy way, a poetic way of saying God realization, self-realization is possible within yourself. In your mind, in your intellect, in your understanding, in your heart, in your feelings, there. In the body, in the mind, in the heart. So poetically it is said, in the sacred space of the heart. So that's the first thing to understand. Where will you realize? Atmani, in the self. What do you mean in the self? In this body-mind. More specific, sacred space of the heart. That's why those who are initiated into meditation, mantra and meditation, you're always told to meditate, visualize a lotus in the heart space and meditate there. So that's the first one, within yourself. Second, what are you going to realize? The self, ātmānam. But what self is mentioned here? What is meant here? We've already mentioned the body-mind. Are you going to realize this? No, we already know this. I am this guy, that's what we feel. And according to Vedanta, we are seriously mistaken. That's not our real self. You start here and the realization will take place here, but that's not what we are. We are not this biological being. We are not even this psychological being. So what are we going to realize? Our real nature. What's our real nature? That's all that we have been studying so far. Limitless consciousness, existence consciousness place, Satchidananda. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. The ultimate reality is existence awareness, limitless existence awareness. Now, that's a new thing for us. If the Vedanta said, you're this body, you're just this guy. Well, I knew that already. I don't have to come to Vedanta or any kind of spirituality or philosophy for that. Tell me something new. What new thing are you teaching me? Well, the greatest thing. We're telling you that you really do not know yourself. Your real self is not this body. What you truly are, not even this mind. You're not even this person you think you are. Behind or deeper, underlying this body-mind is a limitless existence, being, is a limitless consciousness, chit, sat, chit, and limitless fulfillment. And you are that, we are that. That has to be realized. One might say at this point, that sounds nice, but I wish it were true. I hope it is true, but I don't know it yet. Yes, that's the whole goal of spiritual life, to realize that. So we have explained two atmas. Atmani, in the self, in this body-mind. Ātmānam, to realize the self. Which self? Limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, Satchidananda. But how? ātmanā, by the mind. So here the self means the mind. What kind of mind? The spiritualized mind. The mind has to be prepared and educated to know that I am this body, I am this person. You don't need education. You don't need to go to school. We are born with that instinctive feeling that I'm just this person. Shankaracharya calls it naisargikoyam loka vyavahara. This is natural ignorance and behavior based on natural ignorance. What's the natural ignorance? I do not know who I truly am, and I think I am this body-mind, and I live my life from babyhood accordingly. And many lifetimes. But to realize who we truly are, we need education. Education is Vedanta or spiritual life in general, any kind of spirituality. What it does is it educates, it changes, transforms, educates the mind. So the mind has to be purified, focused, and educated about itself, who we are, our own real nature. That is what is meant by ātmānā, by the self. Now we understand three times ātmā has been used. In the self, realize the self, by the self. Ātmani, ātmānam, ātmanā. First one means in this body mind. Second one means limitless existence, consciousness, bliss. Third one means this by this mind. This mind which has been polished, transformed, educated by spiritual practices. Good. What spiritual practices? What spiritual practices? He will tell us. He gives us a whole list. He says karma-yoga, sānkhyena, yoga, then meditation, dhyāna. What does he mean by these? So, now I'm going to give two interpretations. First, I will give the classical Vedantic, Advaita Vedantic interpretation, and then a broader interpretation, more inclusive interpretation. But first, the classical interpretation. According to classical Advaita Vedanta, Shankara and post-Shankara Advaita Vedanta, these practices which have been mentioned here, broadly they fall into three groups, and all of them are necessary. But they have to be done in sequence. At any time, one will be more important than the other. You can do them all together, but one will be more efficacious and more necessary for us. So three. Why these three spiritual practices, three yogas? Why? Because we have three levels of problems. We struggle at three levels. The first level, the most obvious level is, of course, as we have noticed, we don't know who we are. We don't know this. So ignorance is our first problem. And the solution for ignorance is always knowledge. And knowledge is produced by the path called the way of knowledge, Jnana Yoga. And what do you do in Jnana Yoga? You listen, you reflect, and you meditate. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Three components are there. Now, Jnana Yoga, then that should be straightforward. But it isn't. We may listen. We may have listened to YouTube lectures by the hour, and once I went, a couple of years back, I went back to our main monastery in India. And a brahmachari, who's a monastic novice, he came up, a very humorous chap. He comes up to me with a big smile. It's the first time he's seeing me in person. He said, my YouTube practice is complete today. You have manifested yourself. He was joking. He said, I've watched hours and hours of your YouTube talks, and then I became a monk. This is the first time I'm seeing you in the flesh. He said it in Hindi. I'll tell you, his Hindi is even more funny. He said, आज मेरा YouTube साधना पूर्ण हुआ, आप प्रकट हो गए. So my YouTube sadhana is, my YouTube spiritual practice is over. So even YouTube is a yoga, YouTube yoga. But it doesn't work. Not so easy. Either it doesn't appeal to us, it seems very academic and dry, or it seems fascinating but doesn't seem practical. People say, tell us something practical. I always say, to me, the most practical thing seems to be the way of knowledge. Most direct, most practical. It's an immediate answer and solution to our problems. But for most people, it seems theoretical. Many call it dry. And people say, okay, I find it interesting, but my life, but this much must be admitted, my life isn't changing. I'm still the same person. I have no realization. You have to realize in the self, by the self. Nothing is happening. I'm still the same self, same person. So what's wrong here? The Vedanta says our problem lies at there's a more surface level of the problem, which is called, the mind is a flickering mind, distracted mind. If you have ignorant mind, solution is knowledge. But distracted mind, solution is meditation. Solution is focus, concentration. To get focus or concentration, we need meditation. In Sanskrit, upāsana. Here two yogas will become useful. Bhakti Yoga and your Raja Yoga. Both will become useful here. Raja Yoga because it trains the mind in calmness and focus. It stills the mind. Stills the mind is not going to sleep. Stills the mind is like when your mind is focused, when you are studying, concentrating deeply on some activity. That's the still mind. It's very active, but it's active in one direction, like a laser beam, focused. Usually activity of the mind for us means flickering. And we misunderstand stilling for going to sleep. Your mind is still there. That's not what is meant by still mind. Still mind is the same object, the same thought, the same center of attention again and again and again, focused on that. It's not something that we are unaware of, unaccustomed to. We do that in our lives. If you have studied deeply, if you have played a musical instrument well, if you have concentrated on a game of tennis, whatever we know what concentration is, focus is. And bhakti also is very useful for this. A great amount of our distraction is due to desires, a flickering mind here and there, pulled here and there. Anxieties, desires. Great devotion to God focuses our mind. What the heart loves, the mind will follow. Our attention will go where our love is. So if my love is for the Lord, my attention will be there also. In the Bible it is said, where your treasure is, there your heart is. So my treasure is there, so my heart, my attention, my thoughts will be there. Also, anxieties, fears, that also disturbs our mind. We have a great support, the mightiest power in the universe behind you, none greater than God. God is my support. Then I am free. I do not depend on anything and anybody except God. So great. It will focus the mind. It will settle the mind. I've been practicing meditation for long years and still nothing has changed. Whenever I try to meditate, my mind, either I fall asleep or my mind is flickering here and there. I'm waiting, how long, when can I get up? It happens to everybody. That restless mind is due to what is called rajas. Rajas means the element of impurity, dynamism, energy, activity, restlessness in the mind. That is the quality. Then, or it falls asleep. That's due to a quality called tamas, darkness, inertia, a kind of heaviness which comes. So why isn't meditation succeeding? If meditation is supposed to calm my mind, still my mind, so that I can catch the Vedantic truth, the knowledge will blossom, will appear in my mind. Not happening. So Vedanta tells us that there is a third, even more surface level of the problem, which is impurity in the mind, impure mind. We have thrown a lot of garbage into this mind in our lifetime due to incautious living, careless or carefree living. And many lifetimes, there are layer after layer of impurities and darknesses and negativities in this mind. Those have to be purified. They will not allow the mind to settle down. Again, Bible, blessed, short statements. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. They shall see God. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. What we are talking about here, self-realization, God-realization, purity of the heart. Swami Prabhavananda in his book, Sermon on the Mount According to Vedanta, he says, suppose I say, I am pure, I think at least. How do I know that I am not pure? He says, it's simple. Try to hold on to a thought in the mind for a few minutes. It's very easy. We say easy peasy. So take up a mantra, Om Namah Shivaya or something, any mantra. Think of the Lord, Krishna, 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 Rama Krishna, Rama Krishna, Jai Shri Rama Krishna. Think about that. A form of the Lord and a mantra. Within seconds, within minutes, you will find it has been tossed out, some other thought has come in. I made up my mind, my decision, my thought for just 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Can't do it. Why? It's what asking this question, why? My mind is so intimate, close to me. It should be in my hands, under my control, my direction. It seems to be easiest to handle. The body is close to me, I can control the body. The mind is even closer to me, so I should be able to control the mind, but I can't. Why so difficult? And the biggest reason is impurity of mind. Mind is clouded by impurities. And so that the effect of the impurities is restlessness, slipperiness. Our mind is, we are unable to control the mind. It blows hither and thither like the wind. Arjuna says to Krishna, the mind is as difficult to control as the wind. One might as well try to trap the wind. You can't. So this is due to impurity. Is it impossible to control? No, it can be controlled. Yogis do control the mind. How? By purifying. So impure mind is the problem. Solution? Pure mind. No brainer. But how? And that's the difficult part. One powerful way of purifying the mind is called karma-yoga. Karma-yoga. Karma-yoga is spiritualizing our actions. Whatever we are doing in life, to dedicate it to the Lord, instead of all our actions are automatically, by default, are all about I, me, mine. Self-centered. And here the self does not mean limitless existence, consciousness, bliss. It just means this guy. Everything is for myself. Everything is for myself. This selfish tendency is reversed by karma-yoga. Selfless. When I try to do this selfless action, what happens is, layer after layer of the mind is purified. Karma yoga, so now we have got karma yoga to purify the mind. Then we have meditation and bhakti yoga also. I'll say one more thing about bhakti yoga later. Meditation to concentrate the purified mind, and jnana yoga, the way of knowledge, to generate knowledge in the purified, concentrated mind. So I always say you try to make a matrix in your mind about, visualize a matrix, 3x3 matrix. 3 rows and 3 columns. What are the 3 columns? The 3 kinds of, the 3 columns are problem, solution, method. Problem, solution, method. And the 3 rows, the outermost. The problem is impure mind. Solution is pure mind. Method is karma yoga. Spiritualization of our lives, our actions. Both so-called worldly, secular life and also our spiritual, religious life. Spiritualization of our lives. And that's done, the central idea is unselfish, selfless. One powerful way of making it selfless is to dedicate it to God. Then the next row, the middle row, problem, distracted mind. Solution, concentrated mind. Method, meditation. Final, the deepest level of the problem, the core, ignorant mind. Solution, knowledge. Method, the way of knowledge, jnana yoga. What we do in Advaita Vedanta. And there the method is shravana, manana, nididhyasana. Here, reflect, meditate. So there are 2, notice meditation has come twice. Once for focusing, for polishing the mind, focusing the mind, concentrating the mind. And the next one, to dwell on the results of your jnana yoga practice. By hearing and by discriminating, by analysis, you have come to a certain result. I am not the body-mind. I am the awareness to which the body-mind is appearing. Now you have to stay with that awareness. That's another kind of meditation, which is called nididhyasana, non-dual meditation. So this is the matrix of sadhana. And according to Advaita Vedanta, they will try very hard to fit this, what Krishna has said, into that matrix of sadhana. Yeah. Now bhakti yoga, remember I introduced it halfway. Why I did that? The Sanskrit names for the practices are jnana, upāsana, karma. Jnana, knowledge. Upāsana has 2 meanings, worship, meditation. The usual meaning of upāsana in all Indian languages generally is worship. But if you go to Vedas, upāsana is a series of meditations, Vedic meditations. And then karma. The Vedas themselves are divided broadly into three categories. One is karma kanda, the ritualistic portion. Rituals, actual religious rituals which you perform, light a fire and chant the mantras and offer. The old kind of ritual which Hindus used to do Even now, nothing dies in Hinduism. Everything will go on. But layers are added. Now the modern ritual is more puja, what we call puja. You have Ganesh puja, Durga puja, Shivaratri puja. Then we are going to have Ramnavami, the birthday of Lord Rama coming up this Sunday. Janmashtami. So these are pujas and daily puja in the temples, in your homes, your puja. But before this modern kind of puja, modern means about 2,000 or years old or so. But before that, what was in vogue was the Vedic rituals. From Agnihotra, which was done at home, a small fire ritual, to big multi-priest affairs which would go on for days. That is, all of that was the source for that, the texts for that, the source texts for that were what are called the karma-kanda, the ritualistic portions of the Vedas. But then there is another smaller part of the Vedas called the upāsana-kanda, which are not physical rituals but are visualizations and meditations. The word upāsana later came to mean puja, worship. What we do is also called upāsana. The ritualistic worship and prayer altogether is now in modern Hinduism, it's called upāsana. But in Vedas, upāsana was meditations, various kinds of visualizations. And finally, we have something in the Vedas called the jnana-kanda, the knowledge portion. Another name for jnana-kanda, we all know that, Vedanta. There's a Vedanta Society of New York. So Vedanta is the knowledge portion of the Vedas. So you're looking at the core or the final or the acme of Vedantic teachings, of Vedic teachings. Vedanta is only the knowledge portion, but it is backed up by the work portion and the meditation portion. And that develops into these three kinds of yogas later on. The work portion, if you spiritualize it, it becomes karma yoga. And broaden it. It's not just Vedic rituals, any kind of work. That's what Krishna did in the Bhagavad Gita. He broadened action to include any kind of action, including down to this most horrible, the worst kind of action, which is fighting wars. Arjuna, the battlefield. That also, he says, you can spiritualize, do it as your duty, and that will purify you. So action can be spiritualized and should be. So it becomes karma yoga. The meditation portion can be spiritualized. That becomes dhyana yoga, meditation, the way of meditation, or what Vivekananda called Raja Yoga. And also it is bhakti yoga. Upasana is also bhakti yoga. Upasana means bhakti actually, worship, adoration, worship. And the knowledge portion becomes jnana yoga. Advaita Vedanta is primarily jnana yoga. But remember, it presupposes that we have done the hard work. The foundational work has been done. This is a superstructure, but the foundation, the groundwork has to be done. The groundwork is preparation, purification of the mind and focus of the mind. What Vivekananda put it in this way, all we can do is polish the mirror. That polishing the mirror has two aspects. One is wipe it and then scrub it. So wiping it is purifying the mind, karma yoga. And scrubbing it, make it shine, that is jnana yoga. Make it one-pointed. So the mind becomes a most powerful instrument. All knowledge, Vivekananda would say, depends upon concentration, the power of concentration. And give nature a hard knock with the power of concentration, and she will yield up her secrets. So knowledge comes from focus, concentration. Both purity and concentration are already taken for granted in the way of knowledge. And so Krishna here teaches that these are what are required. Now, I'm still in the classical, this Advaita Vedanta framework. So, Advaita Vedanta framework is true knowledge. You will attain enlightenment. Knowledge is just another name for enlightenment. Enlightenment, what does it mean? Light. Oh, I get it. Knowledge. Why is that knowledge required at all? Because our problem is ignorance. You are already Atman. You are already Brahman. You are already one with God. You are already limitless, immortal, self-fulfilled, self-luminous, but we don't know any of it. This is ignorance. And this ignorance is removed by knowledge. And knowledge is generated by this this Jnana Yoga. So, Advaita Vedanta is by knowledge alone you will get liberation. There's no other way. There's simply no other way. Everything else, it's like darkness. Only way of removing darkness is to switch on the light. You can't scrub darkness away. You can't yell at darkness, go away. No. You can't beat a drum, darkness will disappear. No. You have to switch on the light. Only knowledge will remove the darkness of ignorance. But for knowledge to arise, the mind must be prepared. And the preparation of the mind requires karma-yoga and dhyāna-yoga, meditation. Bhakti yoga, devotion to God, is useful at all three levels actually. It purifies the mind. Impure mind is made pure by love of God. It wonderfully concentrates the mind. So scattered mind is collected. After all, bhakti is what? It is concentrated desire. All desires, the 100-fold desires which flow out to the world are collected into one almighty love of God. So it's a focus. It's focus of the mind. And by the grace of God also, this knowledge or enlightenment becomes possible. So both, all three, purification, concentration and enlightenment, all are helped by bhakti. All are mediated by bhakti. So bhakti works at all three levels. All right. So this is the traditional approach. What would the commentators say here? This is the sequence, we stand by it, because ultimately it has to be knowledge. So we stand by this sequence, but it has to be, all of these are required and they are combined. And they are combined in sequence. Ultimately, however, it has to come to knowledge. It has to culminate in this realization, I am Brahman. I am this limitless self. And then only realization is possible in the self, by the self, realization of the self. In this body and mind, with the mind which has been purified, focused and saturated with Vedanta knowledge. What will be realized? The true self. I am Satchidananda, I am Brahman, I am the Atman. That will be realized. Therefore, if you see the commentator here, this one particular commentary I am reading, this is Sridhar Swami. There he says, because Krishna here does not clearly indicate a sequence. What I just said, the matrix, is not at all clear here. Krishna seems to say that there are multiple paths. And so there is some realized by meditation, some realized by Sankhya, some realized by yoga, some realized by karma-yoga. So if you count that way, meditation, Sankhya, yoga, karma-yoga, 4 have been mentioned here. And he's saying some. So all will come to enlightenment, some through the path of action, some through meditation, some through, devotion has not been mentioned here, some through philosophical analysis, some through meditating on the result of the philosophical analysis. So the first meditation is nididhyasana, Vedantic non-dual meditation. The second yoga here is Patanjali yoga, Ashtanga yoga. So what does the commentator say here? Krama-samucchaye sati api tat nishtha bheda viprayena vikalpa uktihi. So we stand by that. We says, although it is meant for sequential practice, karma yoga will purify your mind. What does he mean by that? The matrix, 3x3 matrix. Karma yoga purifies your mind, meditation focuses your mind, and Vedanta gives you knowledge. In sequence you have to do it. However, he says, tat nishtha bheda viprayena vikalpokti. It is presented as if they are alternatives. Why? Because he says, if you look at our spiritual practitioners, if you look at different spiritual practitioners, they seem to be doing different yogas. Some seem to be meditating. Some seem to be listening to Vedanta talks. Some seem to be, doing karma yoga. So, if you look at various spiritual practitioners, he says, nishtha bheda, the difference in their practice, in their dedication. What are they doing? What is their nishtha? That means where are they established, or what is it that they are following right now in their lives? Some seem to be karma yogis, some seem to be devotees, some seem bhakta, some seem to be meditators, dhyani, some seem to be jnani. So looking at their various disciplines which they are undergoing, these have been presented as if alternatives. But that meaning they are not alternatives. All of them have to be done, and they have to be done in sequence. In sequence, they'll be useful for each. Practically, you have to keep on doing all of them. One will be more predominant. Karma yoga may be predominant at the beginning. Then devotion and meditation may be more predominant later on. And then finally, Vedanta will be the final step before illumination. So this is the traditional presentation. Now I will give you a more expanded presentation from the perspective of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, Ma Sharada, a more broader presentation. The broader presentation is, these are different paths to enlightenment or God realization. One may be exclusively the path of knowledge. One may be the path of devotion, bhakti alone, exclusively. One may be the path of meditation alone, exclusively. And even karma yoga, just by being a force for good in this world. And all of these can lead to enlightenment and God realization. Immediately what would the Advaitins say, non-dualists say? I'd say, but ultimately you have to come to knowledge, right? Because ignorance is the problem. So knowledge has to come. The answer is twofold. By whatever path you do, we may claim that knowledge is generated finally. Vivekananda, his answer was, by karma yoga, if the mind is purified, what other obstruction remains for knowledge? Because you are already that Atman. It's already self-revealed. Only the impurity blocked it from your mind. What other obstruction remains? Knowledge is just like that. It will come just like that. Meditation. Karma yoga purifies the mind. The pure mind meditation is immediate, easy, natural. For us it's the struggle. But the pure mind meditation is natural. So all of these paths will lead to enlightenment. Another response would be, ignorance is the problem, knowledge is the solution. That's only if you accept the Advaita Vedanta paradigm. I am already Brahman. I don't know that. Ignorance. And therefore I need to know that. Knowledge. Only if you accept this paradigm. Suppose you don't. And there are many who don't. There are many schools of Vedanta also who don't. So no, you are not Brahman. Who told you you are Brahman? You are a sentient being, a jiva, being whirled around in this cycle of birth and death. Only by the grace of God will you be pulled out of this cycle of birth and death and liberated into moksha. And moksha means going to Vaikuntha or Shivaloka in the divine abode of God and remaining in the presence of God. That is liberation. That's a perfectly valid theology. In that case, knowledge is not the way out. You may keep on saying, I am Brahman, and listening to YouTube videos. So, none of that is going to, all that may be good, but none of that is going to liberate you. You will not progress one bit also in spiritual life. But if you cultivate devotion to Narayana, to the Lord, to Shiva, to the Divine Mother, then that devotion will set you free. How will devotion set me free? Well, because it won't. Your devotion will not set you free. Your devotion will generate the grace of God, and the grace of God will set you free. That's possible. Then what is the way? Not Vedanta, not the way of knowledge. Then bhakti is the way. Surrender is the way. Perfectly valid theology. That is the theology of Dvaita Vedanta. That's the theology of Vishishtadvaita Vedanta, Prapatti Marga. The highest spiritual practice is complete surrender to God. It's a personal God. God who listens and answers your prayers, who loves and protects. Now comes the yogi. So all this is just belief. To the bhakta he will say, the yogi will say, all this is just believing in stuff. Who knows? You're just surrendering, depending on God. How do you know God is at all existing or not? How do you know whether God is existing, listening to you or not? God may not be interested in you. All this is belief. About jnana. that by listening to Vedanta and inquiring, I'm not the body, not the mind, I'll become free. I realize I am Brahman. The yogi will say all that is book knowledge. Reading books won't do you any good. You're reading books, memorizing verses and arguing, logic chopping. What good will it do? The real way is that our reality is already there. The problem is not that we don't know. We know enough. It's no good reading books and listening to YouTube talks. You have to calm down the mind. By stilling the mind in samadhi, the truth which is beyond the mind becomes obvious. Yogaschitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is cessation of the movements of the mind, stilling the movements of the mind. Calm mind without any waves, like a lake, without any waves. And crystal clear water. You see straight through to the bottom of the lake. Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. Then the witness consciousness is appreciated in its real nature. Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Vritti sarupyam itaratra. Otherwise, the movement of the mind, movement of the lake, it obscures the underlying reality. You, the witness consciousness, you appear mixed up with the movements of the mind. So this is the royal secret. It is control of the mind and inwardizing the mind and stilling the mind in samadhi. Samadhi is the way, not YouTube video. Not your ringing bells and offering flowers to God. None of them. Those things may help only remotely. What will really help is sit down, be still, turn your mind inwards and then practice meditation. That is the way of yoga. None of them will say we require those other ones. No. So, the way of meditation claims for itself, ours is the way to enlightenment. The way of devotion claims for itself, devotion, love, surrender to God, ours is the way to enlightenment. Just as you, non-dualists, you have claimed that Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, Advaita, Vedanta, Jnana Yoga, this is the way to enlightenment. Knowledge alone is the way to enlightenment. You claim that. We claim no. Even if you say knowledge is the way to enlightenment, our claim is by devotion. Our means the bhakta. By devotion, God will give you that knowledge. Not by your reading books and arguing. Sri Ramakrishna would say, what is there in your Veda and Vedanta, my mother has shown me. Ma dikhi diye. My mother has revealed to me already. What is there in your Veda and Vedanta. So God has given me that knowledge. By the grace of God. It happens. It is not just for the sake of argument. It actually happens. I know of cases who are not doing any kind of Vedantic analysis. They're simply repeating the mantra of their Ishta Devata. And they realized, I am the self. Actual realization, enlightenment. Now what will you say? So, this expanded view of spirituality is not that one monolithic structure. Karma yoga purifies the mind, then dhyana yoga concentrates the mind, and jnana yoga gives you final knowledge or illumination in the purified, concentrated mind. That's one way, one track, valid, but that's not the only track. There is also bhakti yoga, by itself, devotion. Bhakti yoga will say, no, I will put devotion at the top. Karma yoga will purify the mind. Somehow poor karma yoga is always relegated to the... Then meditation will concentrate the mind. With a concentrated, purified mind, devotion will give you the vision of God. The way of meditation will say, karma yoga will purify the mind again. And your jnana yoga is basically you study Sankhya philosophy, Prakriti and Purusha. Then you do yoga meditation and you will realize you are Purusha, you are the witness consciousness. So, meditation is the final top, or bhakti is the final top, or jnana is the final top. And then comes Vivekananda. In this day and age, karma yoga. He has a separate, it's not as a preliminary just to clear the ground. No, he says not only will it clear the ground, it will take you, this action, the way of action will take you to full enlightenment. He is the one who has given, he says in this day and age, this is the most powerful yoga. There is a recorded dialogue between him and Swami Turiyananda, I think in Almora. Vivekananda is walking and talking with Turiyananda. He says, Hari Bhai, he used to call him Hari Bhai. His name was Hari. Hari Bhai, in this day and age, I have created a new way. In years to come, young men and women, he says clearly, young men and women will work out their salvation through this karma yoga. They will attain enlightenment and freedom through karma yoga, the way of action, with service. Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva, knowing all beings to be none other than Shiva, serving them, worshipping them through service. Not your traditional devotion, not your philosophical way of knowledge, not even your eyes closed meditation, no, through service. And that will lead to enlightenment, he says. So all four can lead to God realization. Now what should we do? Vivekananda's argument was, do all four. If you want a hierarchy, if you are committed to Advaita Vedanta, he says, yes, I will do all four, but my hierarchy is karma yoga. On the basis of that, meditation and devotion. On the basis of that, Advaita Vedanta, Jnana Yoga. Vivekananda says, fine, but that's one combination. If you say, no, karma yoga, meditation, and then devotion for me, bhakti, fine. Vivekananda says, realization of the divinity already within yourself, that is spirituality. Manifestation of the divinity already within ourselves is spirituality. How do you do it? He says, do it by philosophy, Jnana Yoga. Do it by love, bhakti. Do it by psychic control, these are his words, meditation. Or do it by service, that is karma yoga. By one or more or all of these and be free, that is the whole of religion. Books, temples, doctrines and churches are but secondary details. So I'm quoting the famous lines from Vivekananda. School children memorize it in India. This is the broader interpretation, and actually I think it's closer to Sri Krishna's original spirit, because Sri Krishna does not, in this verse, does not give a specific framework. All right. A question, hold on, don't forget the question. I'll do one more verse and then we can ask the question. Verse number 25. Anye evam ajānantaḥ, anye evam ajānantaḥ, śhrutvānyebhya upāsate, śhrutvānyebhya upāsate, tepi chātitarantyeva, mṛityuṁ śhruti-parāyaṇāḥ, mṛityuṁ śhruti-parāyaṇāḥ. Others again, not knowing thus, worship by hearing from others. Verily they also, being devoted to hearing, go beyond death. So these are others. We hear all this and we scratch our heads and say, actually, I'm not doing any of these paths. I'm not really a karma yogi or a bhakti yogi or a dhyani meditator or let alone an Advaitin, nor am I practicing all of them together. I mean, I have some beliefs and I try to do my best, but that's sort of everything. Now what? And he says, is there any hope for me? Krishna says, yes, certainly there is. The commentator introduces, Ati mandadhikarinam nistara upāyam. For those who are not at all qualified for all these paths, what is the way to save such seekers? They are also spiritual seekers. They want liberation. Nistara upāyam. What is the way to cross the samsara, ocean of samsara? And Krishna says that they also, anybody who listens to spiritual instructions with faith and does the best that they can, just by listening to somebody teaching, some kind of teaching, and does the best that they can, desiring liberation, desiring God realization, wanting God, they will also realize God. Suppose somebody hears from some guru, chant this mantra. Is that enough? If you do it sincerely with faith, with a simple mind, simple heart, one-pointed, you will realize. Just by that faith, you will be taken across. So remember, ultimately, it's not that it depends on a particularly sophisticated method. For me, only the most secret technique handed down by yogis in the Tibetan plateau, that will do for me. Not your cheap, your little mantra you have been repeating, your grandmother taught you. I got it from a great master from the Himalayas. 5,000-year-old tradition. See? So it's much more powerful, and that will take me to liberation. Where did you get your practice? Your grandma told you. That won't help. Krishna says, not at all, not at all. The reason being, it's not that our technique, our method is important. Methods are important, techniques are important, but not that it's crucial. What is crucial is our faith, our simplicity. What is crucial is the grace of God. I have seen the simplest of monks with a simple devotion to Sri Ramakrishna, very simple devotion, and sincere. I've seen they progress much faster than some of the most scholarly ones. What have you done? I've worked in the garden. I've cleaned the toilets. I've seen monks, yes, veritably living saints. Very simple. Just a little instruction given by the Guru, and they have stuck to it for. That's one of the things I saw in the senior Swamis. This greatness is that how seriously they took what the Guru told them. Just today, another monk is visiting. Revered Swami Shivarchananandi has come from St. Louis. We're talking about some of the old Swamis we have seen. Swami Pavananandaji, I saw him in Deoghar many years, decades ago. His Guru told him, go and stay in Deoghar, in the ashram in Deoghar, which is in India. That's just one sentence. In the 1920s, the Guru told him. I saw him in the 1990s. From that time onwards, this person is an Irishman. He wasn't even Indian. How difficult it must have been for him. This was not Calcutta or Delhi in those days, the capital of the British Empire. No. It was like a tiny, remote place in central India, in Bihar actually. And now it's in Jharkhand. And he stayed there in that ashram for decades and decades. Guru told him. And I've seen this many times. What the Guru has said. So, śhrutvānyebhya, having heard from somebody you consider with respect, I've heard by this way I can see God. Let me do it. The story of a person who was told to repeat the name of Rama. So he started repeating Rama. At what time this Rama became, if you repeat it continuously, it becomes Mara. So Mara means dead. But because it was told to him by the Guru, he repeated it with all heart and devotion, he became enlightened. He had the vision of Rama. Shabari, of course, very well known. This old lady, at the end of her life, she gets a visit from Ramachandra himself, from an incarnation of God. So it's Ram Navami coming up on Sundays. So it's good that we're talking about that. She expected Ramachandra to come and spent her whole life waiting for God. So, śhrutvānyebhya. Vedanta also, that I am Brahman, it does not mean that you have actually got to study Upanishads, you have to learn Sanskrit. It's good if you do. I'm not discouraging you. It's a very good effort. But even if it does, it's not compulsory. That, how are you going to get enlightened? Have you read the 10 Upanishads with the commentaries of Shankaracharya in Sanskrit? No, I haven't. No hope for you then. Next life. Sanskrit grammar, those who love it, they love it. But for the rest of us, for me also, it is very difficult. And I remember once we were studying the sutras of Panini, and the monk in charge of our ashram, in the morning he asked us, young novices, what are you studying these days at breakfast? We said, oh, the sutras of Panini. And he said, oh my God, read daily, forget daily. In Bengali he said that, Ore Baba, pratidin pada, pratidin bhola. And after all that, you study and then practice, and then you will become enlightened. Vedanta says, no, 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 no. Same teaching. You hear it in English or Spanish or, it doesn't even have to be detailed. You don't even need to know all the detailed arguments. The basic idea, you are Brahman. Forget the word Brahman. You are being itself. There are some direct path teachers who are teaching directly. Rupert Spira, I've heard, or Eckhart Tolle. What is that? The power of now. The core Vedantic teachings. That I am that. Nisargadatta Maharaj. Ramana Maharshi's teachings in English. Simple English, without a single word of Sanskrit also. Is that equal to this? Yes. Yes. All that we need is this awakening knowledge. In whichever language it is. You can modernize it and put it in modern terms. You use the logic, you can explain it using modern examples in your mother tongue. Will it work? Or will I have to learn Sanskrit? No. Now, I'm not discouraging you from learning Sanskrit. It's a really good endeavor, but it's not essential. You can do that. Even Shankaracharya's own disciple, the most learned of them, Sureshwaracharya, a great master of Vedanta who wrote Naishkarmya Siddhi and all the Vartika texts on Shankara's commentaries and so on. He says, Yaya yaya hi bhavet pumsam. In whichever way seekers, the people who are seeking realization, in whichever way they are enlightened, all those ways are welcome. Whatever exists now and whatever is to come in future, whichever way you get enlightened, that way is welcome. It doesn't have to be by my way. It doesn't have to be Drigdrishya Viveka, the seer and the seen. It doesn't have to be Panchakosha Viveka, the inquiry into the 5 layers of the human personality. It doesn't have to be Mandukya Upanishad with waking, dreaming, sleep. Those are powerful, royal highways to enlightenment. But it could be something else. It could be a mantra. It could be a simple prayer. And that can take you to God realization. Anything. He says, whatever is the way people follow, with faith, they will realize. They will go across the ocean of samsara. Mṛityuṁ samsara shanairatitaranty. Ever slowly they will cross over. All right. What was the question?
So my question was related to grace. So whether you take it as...
You have a microphone? All right. There's a microphone coming.
So my question is related to the concept of grace. So whether you are you practice jnana yoga, in Sri Ramakrishna said that our job is to raise the sail. Grace is always there.
Yes.
So when we raise the sail, we will get the grace. So raising the sail is all these 4 yogas.
Yes.
And so whichever yoga, so grace is not like a wish that is granted by a God that you believe in. Rather, it's always there. Is that correct?
That's correct. The more we progress in spiritual life, the more we become aware that the grace of the Lord is always around us. Saguna Brahman, Ishvara, Bhagavan, the Lord, in whichever form you worship God. God is always gracious. We realize then that every breath that we draw. Taittiriya Upanishad says, Kah anyat, kah pranyat, yadiyesha akasha anandanasyat. What sublime poetry. Who could breathe in? Who could even breathe out if this space of bliss, this akasha of bliss were not there? It's because of the presence of God. All this is possible. Life is possible. Worldly existence is possible. All that we consider samsara, that also is possible because of the grace of God. And then devotion, yoga, knowledge, spiritual aspiration, ultimately leading to God realization. All of it is possible because of the grace of God. And God is always helping us. We make our effort. The practices are basically ways of asking for it. Again, in the Bible, knock and it shall be opened. That we must knock, we must ask for it. The way of asking is to make a sincere effort. Why? After all, why not? We make efforts whenever we want something. We make so much effort in the world. You want money. How much people struggle for a little bit of money, for getting a degree from a college, for raising a family, for buying stuff on what? Black Friday. How much effort people put in. So why not a little bit of effort for God realization? Swami Ramakrishnan used to say to young college boys, they would work very hard for examinations in Calcutta in those days, and he would tell them, with less effort than this, you can realize God. But that some effort is necessary. Because that signals to God that you want it. And that also shows us that I want it.
But isn't grace also a concept from Nirguna Brahman as part of the bliss?
Isn't grace also?
I mean, grace also, like you said, Saguna Brahman.
Yes.
But isn't it also relevant to Nirguna Brahman as the concept that comes out of the bliss
really.
aspect?
Nirguna Brahman is only one non-dual Brahman. Who will be gracious to whom?
But the bliss aspect of it?
Yes, in that sense you can say. But the bliss is the swarupa of Nirguna Brahman. It is Nirguna Brahman. It is Ananda. It is Nirguna Brahman. It's the absolute. And there is no second reality apart from it. Yes. Anybody else had a question? I'll come to you. The lady there, can you? Yeah. You have to be aggressive about raising your hand so that they see you. And
Namaste Swamiji. My name's Rashmi, and thank you so much for these talks. I was curious about the feeling of enlightenment. I was curious if you could speak to what the embodied sense of, you talked about visualization earlier, so the embodied sense of enlightenment, what would that feel like, look like, smell like, taste like?
The embodied sense of enlightenment. You have to ask an enlightened person that, who embodies enlightenment. I can only tell you what the texts tell us. But before we go there, one more thing I wanted to add. One of these texts of radical non-dualism, which is Avadhuta Gita, the Gita of the Avadhuta, the song of the Avadhuta, which is equal to the Ashtavakra Gita in its soaring non-dualism. But the first verse of that, Ishvara anugrahadeva pumsam Advaita vasana, it is the special grace of God that you have this taste for non-duality. Or in our terms, it's a special grace of Saguna Brahman that you have this taste for Nirguna Brahman. I was once wandering in the Himalayas as looking for non-dual monks, non-dual teachers, or teachers of non-duality. So I found some of them. One of them is living in a place called Swargashram on the bank of the Ganga in Rishikesh, in a little cottage. They said you can go there if you want, you can go and ask him. But be careful, don't mention God. He gets very annoyed if you mention God. He doesn't like God. So it's Brahman. I am Brahman, you have to realize non-duality. He's not at all devotionally inclined. He gets irritated. So I went there, and I was not very inspired, let us say, by him, because I found him to be a little bit of a bitter old man. But I still remember what he told me. When I asked him a question about non-duality, of course he was happy. He recited this verse, Ishvara anugrahadeva pumsam Advaita vasana. That men have the desire for non-dual realization, that is the special grace of God. So he's not entirely against God. Now, what is the embodied sense of enlightenment? What does enlightenment feel like? Not theoretically. What does it feel like physically? Pretty much like this. Right. So you have this altar here. Now you suddenly realize it's made of wood. What will the altar look like? It's the same. But now you realize. I was looking at you, I didn't know your name. You said your name is Rashmi. Now before enlightenment, when I was ignorant of your name, now I know your name is Rashmi, that you are Rashmi. What's the new thing that I am seeing? Nothing. Because I'm seeing the same person, the same face. So the word is phenomenologically, the internal feel of it, what happened? Nothing. A new insight was gained. Oh, this one whom I was seeing earlier, now I am seeing is Rashmi. Now that's not entirely true also, because the breakthrough is so dramatic, it definitely feels, even in an embodied sense, it feels, the results will be, for example, a sense of great freedom and lightness. A result of being really, really free of this world and this body, even while experiencing this world and body. Now I realize I don't depend on this world for anything. So you depend on it for air and food. True, the body does. And if it doesn't get it, the body will die. But I don't depend on the body for anything else. That becomes very clear also. It could disappear tomorrow. Nothing is lost. So that sense of embodied freedom comes. A sense of lightness comes. A sense of fulfillment comes. Deep fulfillment. Imagine having done what human life is for. Ultimate purpose of human life. You have accomplished it. Having gotten, after which there is nothing greater to get in this universe. Krishna says in the Gita, Yam labdva na chāparam labham manyate tato adhikam. Having gotten, attained that, after which no greater gain is possible. Imagine the feeling of doing that, of having that. Having known that by which everything is known. Eka vijnanena sarva vijnanam. By one knowledge, everything is known. At one grasp, at one fell swoop, the whole secret of the universe is known to you. And all this becomes effortless for you. Imagine the feeling of that. Will there be a different feel to it? In one sense, yes. One sense, no. It's the same universe, same person. Another sense, tremendously different. It's for the first time the lights have gone on, have come on. It's like being awake for the first time. Buddha says, I am awake. And he was asked, after his Bodhi experience, he's going to Sarnath to preach. So one shepherd boy asks him, he looked at his face. Who are you? He didn't ask who are you, he asked what are you? People are asked who are you, we are all asked who are you. We tell our names, our identities. But very few people are asked what are you? Are you a god? Buddha said no. So are you an angel, like a Devadut, emissary of the gods? No. Are you a human being? Are you a human being then? He said no. Then what are you? He says, I am the awake, I am Buddha. Meaning thereby all rest of us are sleeping or sleepwalking or daydreaming. So that's another thing of the enlightened one. For the first time they will be awake. And it's not maintained by any kind of effort. Just as you being Rashmi is not maintained by any effort at all. Similarly, that awakening will be permanent forever.
Can building up to it be gradual, or it's always spontaneous? Okay.
Building up to it will be gradual. There might be glimpses of it, but it's still building up to it. If you feel it came but it went away.
Yeah.
I had a wonderful experience, but an experience. Experiences come and go, but this is not even an experience. This is that by which all experiences are possible. And after this, every experience points back to it. Which experience in your life shows you that you are Rashmi? Every experience. This is all Rashmi's experience. Living the life you are living now, that's Rashmi's life. Similarly, for the enlightened one, living the life they are living is Brahman. So they embodied this truth. Don't say, so when I say it's just like this, one might feel disappointed. Like this? What's the point then? I already have this. No. It is, in that sense, it's extraordinarily different also. So Ramakrishna, the descriptions of him in Samadhi, for example, his face used to be like a ripe pumpkin, they would say. It's as if it's going to burst with joy. So such uncontrollable fulfillment, joy from within. Spontaneously.
Thank you.
Right. Yes, the gentleman here, then I'll come here.
Can you talk a little bit more about how to do karma yoga, right? So there's such a tendency of the mind to get attached to outcomes, to success. Yes. How do you do karma yoga without getting attached?
Yes. Attachment is to the results. I do this work because it gives me what I want, or I expect it to give me what I want. But there is a higher reason for doing karma yoga. Remember, first of all, karma yoga is work done without any motive. That's wrong. People make a mistake there. You can't work without motive. There must be some motive there. So the result of the motive which you are aiming for in karma yoga is God realization or enlightenment. If it's anything short of that, it's worldly. So karma can be done for worldly results or for other worldly results also. Worldly results are money, fame, or just to keep oneself busy, workaholic, pleasure, power. That's why I'm doing this stuff. Other worldly results, these yagyas, the Vedic rituals, they were done for going to heaven after death. I want to go to that heaven or that higher heaven or even higher heaven. Those are places of celestial pleasure. So those are also very, in one sense, otherworldly are also worldly. This is all within the realm of desire. Now I want to transcend this and I want to become enlightened, I want to become free. Then what do I do with my work? I have a job, a family, a life to lead. What happens to that? Convert that job, that family, all of that into sadhana. You're still doing the same thing. You're turning up for work. You're looking after your kids. But now it's become spiritual practice. I see my Lord, the God I'm worshipping, or the ultimate reality which I'm seeking. I see it embodied in my workplace, in the people around me. Seeing God in every being and worshipping them through action. That becomes karma yoga. And that is, then you're free of the results. You're no longer attached to that. It's like puja. Whatever comes becomes prasad. The food, I might have preferences. I don't like apples, I like mangoes. So if someone offers fruit to me, I'll pick the mangoes. I want that, I don't want that. But if it's prasad, it's been offered to God, and we are standing in a temple and the priest comes and gives you the prasad. You won't say when the apple comes, you say, I don't want that. I want the other one. No. Unless you're a 5-year-old kid, you will say, when you say it as prasad, that it's coming from the Lord. So when your work becomes puja, work becomes the worship, then the results of your work, they're all prasad of the Lord. Whatever comes is accepted with reverence. Oh my Lord, you have given me this. You have given me praise and success. Great. I've got a mango in prasad. You have given me a scolding and a kick and a blow in my office today. Oh, okay. I've got a prune. But that's also prasad. It's also prasad. It's fine. Internally accepted. I deal with it accordingly. It does not conflict with your external way of dealing with things. You can deal with it very skillfully. In fact, a karma yogi is much more skillful than a person who is enmeshed in desires, success and failure, praise and humiliation. Those things really don't matter to the karma yogi. To the karma yogi, success, failure, praise, humiliation, they're all prasad. I bow down and accept it internally. That gives a great spiritual dignity to such a karma yogi. Raises that person easily head and shoulders above everybody else. In the workplace, at home, everywhere. So that becomes karma yoga. Let me do the peace chant and then we will take up some more questions. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Rupanamastu. So, just as a notification, I was looking at the calendar and the rest of the month there are no more Gita classes. The next week I will be coming back from Austin, but the flight will land in the evening, so I won't be able to make it for the class. So no Gita class next Friday. But the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna classes are still there, 3 of them, one after another. So I'll be present here on those days. Then after that, I'll be in Ridgely Manor for a retreat, for a weekend retreat. So there won't be the Gita class here. After that, I'll be in Brussels, in Belgium, for a retreat in Europe. And the week after that, I'll be in Berlin. So in May again, we'll get a notification. We'll have Gita classes again. Yes. Please come with the basket, yes. Yes.
Swamiji, is the nature of truth realized by various paths, is it slightly different? Because a gnani realizes objectless reality in which even the I, the self, is also dissolved. And from there, he sees all the objects are appearing, the same reality is appearing as various objects.
Yes.
Whereas a bhakta, although bhakta sees everything is God in everything, but bhakta may not dissolve. I is always there, right, for bhakta?
Yes. So the nature of the reality which is experienced in enlightenment, the reality is the same reality, but your experience may be different. Sri Ramakrishna put it this way: you want to become sugar or taste sugar? Right, exactly. But it's still sugar. So you lose separateness, and you remain as that indescribable, limitless existence consciousness place. Or you retain the separateness, but you feel the existence, you feel the presence of the divine. God, the presence of God becomes very real to you.
So that does not make it, one step below the absolute truth or anything, right?
Non-dualist, I will say it's one step below.
Right. Me too.
The dualist will say it's one step above your absolute reality. Yes.
Thank you.
So the Vaishnava, the Gaudiya Vaishnava masters, they say that this limitless light of pure consciousness, they say that it is basically, they call it Tanubha, the radiance of the body of Krishna. These poor non-dualists, they call us Mayavadis, the poor Mayavadis, non-dualists, they see the light, they think, oh, it's Brahman, pure consciousness, whatnot, and they faint. And that's what they call realization. But if they persisted, they would go a little further and then see the little blue boy, Krishna. So that's the radiance of the light of the body of Krishna. So what they have done is, instead of putting non-dual realization as the highest, they put it as the beginning. And the dualistic realization as the highest. So these games we can play. Sri Ramakrishna never did that. He made it flat. In whichever way you realize that, it is welcome. But then he is echoing none of the... See, even Sureshwaracharya, great non-dualist, he says, by whichever way you come to enlightenment, that's welcome. Of course, in Sureshwaracharya's sense, enlightenment means realization that I am Brahman. Whichever way you come to the realization I am Brahman, that's welcome. If you had said to him, no, I want to be in the presence of the baby Krishna, is that all right? He would have probably hesitated a little bit. He said, it's all right, okay for the time being, but do better. Yes?
Swamiji, can you tell us about Shuddha Bhakti?
Yes, so that's another path, the Gaudiya, connected to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. They say that all of these other practices are not necessary. Just devotion by itself can lead to enlightenment and freedom. And in fact, even enlightenment is not the goal. Pure devotion, love is the goal. So may I realize God, may I love God from lifetime to lifetime. I don't care for liberation, enlightenment. May I be born again and again, but let me have pure love for you, O Krishna. That was Kunti's prayer. Remember, somebody who suffered so much. At the end of all that suffering, she said, let me suffer again and again. But only one condition, may I love you. Nothing else I want. So that is Shuddha Bhakti. But that's the madness, that's not philosophy. I mean, it's a kind of philosophy. This is the madness of the lover, for whom love is the highest, not your becoming sugar. Can you pass the microphone there to that gentleman there?
Pranam Swamiji. But you mentioned Saguna and Nirguna. I was just kind of trying to think, how can anyone ever know the true nature if it's Saguna or Nirguna or both at the same time? Because even with the Nirguna's way, with the Vedantic way, the experience is by becoming it, right? By being one with it. And at
No,
that
not
point-
necessarily. Right now, are you saguna or nirguna? Are you with attributes or without attributes? When you look at yourself, yes, I'm with attributes. I have a body which has a certain shape and color and weight and all of that. I have a mind which has certain psychological characteristics, personality trait. These are all saguna, with attribute, with form, with attribute. But if you do the Vedantic analysis, the witness consciousness, the seer and the seen, the 5 layers of the human personality, I am the witness consciousness. That witness consciousness, what attribute does it have? No attribute. It's bare of all attributes. It's the witness of all attributes. You yourself are saguna and nirguna. Why will God be anything less than that?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Very good. The lady there, will end with her. Raise your hand aggressively. Yes.
Hi, Swamiji. I was just wondering, could you elaborate on what you see as the significance of broader community service in the concept of karma yoga?
Yes. So broader community service, that is one of the aspects of karma yoga emphasized by Vivekananda. Now notice, the spiritual effect of work has been understood in Hinduism, in the Vedic religion, from the most ancient times. In the Vedas, there are terms like Ishtaputta, the 2 kinds of karma. One is religious ritual, another one is works of charity. So it's not a religious ritual, but they will say that make a way house, for travelers, what people used to need hundreds of years ago, dig a well in a village. So these are works of charity. Give to the needy, feed the hungry. That was there from the most ancient times in the Gita also, in the Upanishads, in the Vedas. But then what happened was, along comes Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, and he says that karma yoga is not just religious action or charitable action. Whatever action we do in life, that can be converted into karma yoga. So that's why the worst kind of action is taken as an example, a battlefield. That means your job can be converted into karma yoga. Your family, work in the family and community can be converted into karma yoga. Every action can be done as a worship of God. That's the next evolution in the idea of karma yoga. Now what you are saying, that comes again, Vivekananda stresses that. Not only works of charity, not only religious action, not only duty performed as spiritual action, Gita, but further, beyond your duty, community action. Vivekananda saw around him, this is something I read in Subhas Bose's writing, Netaji Subhas Bose, who was very inspired by Vivekananda. He says, I read all this Vedanta and yoga and all, but I looked around me. Outside our house used to be this beggar woman who was starving, abandoned. And I used to think, on the streets there are beggars. Thousands die of starvation every other year. There is something seriously wrong in society if we are in such dire straits, in spite of all our spiritual philosophies and this practice. And yes, no doubt, a range of saints throughout the centuries and millennia. But something has gone wrong with society. Somehow all the spirituality is of no good to society. And Vivekananda comes and says, I do not care for a religion which cannot wipe the widow's tears, cannot put bread, cannot raise bread to the lips of a hungry man, and which promises heaven after death. I do not care for such a religion. I remember in the slums of, I think this was probably Nagpur, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly. This elderly gentleman who did a lot of work, who was doing, I hope he's still there, for children in the slum. And he took me and some other monks to visit the school. It's a very difficult place. But he's doing this work, hundreds of little kids benefiting from the work. And in the speech afterwards, I spoke, others spoke, and that gentleman, I still remember one line which he said. He's talking about all these philosophies. He says, in our quest to become gods, we forgot to be human. So Vivekananda says, the decline of India, Indian society at that time, late 19th century. Why are we in such dire straits? He says, 2 great national sins. He says, the oppression of the masses and the discrimination against women. It is two great national sins. So, community service, and indeed even activism for the welfare of the many, that is karma yoga. That is spiritual practice. Acts of charity, yes, of course. Converting our duty into spiritual practice, yes, of course. But beyond your duty, beyond charity, uplifting the community in various ways. Could be for justice, for the homeless, for whatever reason. Where you try to help alleviate human suffering on a mass scale. Not your duty. It's beyond your duty. But this is a service to God in the form of this community. That is karma yoga, yes. Now, I can do it for the welfare of the many, and that will help me. And if I do it with the added idea that I am serving the divine, this is my worship to the divine, it becomes a powerful form of karma yoga. I'm glad you pointed that out. You might think that I have given it some thought, but that's why I was able to say all these things. And indeed, I had given it thought. Years ago, a Pandit in India, traditional scholar, Nyaya Pandit, he said to me, like a rhetorical question, challenge, what's so new about Swami Vivekananda's karma yoga? You have acts of charity being mentioned in the Vedas which are 5,000 years old. Then I started thinking, what is the evolution of karma yoga over the centuries and millennia? So this is how it's evolved. All right.
Swamiji, will you take the last question?
Last question, yes. The young man there. Tell us your name and how old are you?
My name is Yuva.
Yuva means young.
Yeah.
How old are you?
11 years old.
11 years old.
And my question is, after you reach enlightenment, what do you do after that? Like, is there another goal?
No, after that you're just bored. There's nothing more to do. So don't be in a hurry to reach enlightenment. Then you're going to get really bored after that. There's nothing more to be done. No. Swami Brahmananda used to say, spiritual life starts after nirvikalpa samadhi. Your spiritual life starts after enlightenment. Your life really begins with enlightenment. Before that, we are chased by hounds. What was the phrase? Living life. Most people live lives of quiet desperation. For the first time we are set free, we can breathe freely. For the first time you really enjoy life. Then for the first time you're really having fun. For the first time you're never bored. One characteristic of enlightened people, in any religion, any time you'll see, they never feel bored. Then life really becomes fun. Life really becomes enjoyable. You're happy with life, happy with death also. You're not afraid of death. You're not afraid of life. If it's a greater fear is living. Many people who commit suicide is because they're afraid of living. So both you're fine with. And you are very happy. You enjoy every little bit of it. I've seen highly spiritual people, I don't know if they're enlightened or not, they seem to be having the time of their lives. At the point of death, dying. Having the time of their lives. So Vivekananda said, imagine knowing that you cannot die. You'll have no fear. You won't be in a hurry. Imagine loving all beings by knowing that they are God. How difficult it is to see God. But for an enlightened person, you see God whenever you see anybody. Not by imagination. It's a fact for them. So their life becomes a blessing. Endlessly, effortlessly so. Good question. Thank you so much.